Just going to take a second here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, there we are. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Passionista Nation Expert Interview Series. Happy Monday. Hope you had an amazing weekend. You had a little time to rest and have fun and rejuvenate. And I have something special for you today because we're going to get energized and really have some fun this morning. So I'm really, really excited to bring out our special guest, Maggie Bain, who is amazing. You're gonna love her. And yeah, we're gonna kind of talk a little bit of some taboo topics here, slightly, but we're gonna have some fun. So Maggie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I love the build up with the fun. That just gets me in the mood too. So great.
Woo! All right. So before we dive in, because we got some juicy stuff to talk about, I want you guys to know a little bit about Maggie's background, so you know kind of where she's coming from and kind of how she got going with what she's doing. So Maggie was born in Kano, Nigeria, and raised in Scotland. She has a super cool accent. I'm an accent girl. I love anybody with an accent. So Maggie ventured into the Bahamas in 1988. And she arrived with a wealth of knowledge after having been trained in the United Kingdom as a registered nurse, midwife, and critical care nurse. After more than 30 years of nursing, she decided to pursue her lifelong interest in human sexuality at the Florida Sex Therapy Institute in West Palm Beach, and returned to break new ground by becoming the first sex therapist in the Bahamas, sparking conversations on sexuality. That had to have been fun. In addition to her work as a relationship and intimacy specialist in her private practice, she wrote a weekly column titled Loving Relationships for the health section of Nassau's Tribune newspaper, and hosted Love on the Rock as an interactive relationship radio show on Island FM. Realizing how powerful this work was for the individual and the collective, she left the Bahamas to study with best-selling author and transformational speaker and featured teacher of the expert, Lisa Nichols, I know her, and launched a global brand to help people strip down to their authentic selves and create more intimate relationships in their lives. As a speaker, she often approaches taboo conversations with intoxicating combination of lighthearted humor and the intensity of someone who is unwilling to allow relationships to remain anything less than extraordinary. I love that. Intimate personal stories and thought-provoking insights mesmerize audiences, moving them between tears and laughter, and leaving them uplifted, hopeful, and equipped to transform their love lives. Known today as the Bare Naked Coach, that's awesome, Maggie uses her natural ability to see the hidden pain and gently brings it to the surface so that people can experience some quick relief before they learn the skills required to enhance a relationship and deepen their intimacy. She also guides them through the pain of infidelity, ends of relationships, and divorce. So, wow. So she knows her stuff. Can't you guys tell? So we are going to jump in here, Maggie, and I'm excited to learn from you. It's interesting and very timely, actually, I think, that you come on, because recently I've been having even some close friends in my world struggling in relationships and struggling to find love, and they're super successful in their career and business, but it's they're not finding that same success in their personal life. And so I'm excited for them to be able to access this information. I'm sure that's the case for a lot of women, especially women entrepreneurs, when we are so busy, with our careers and sharing our gifts with the world. Often we leave ourselves for last. So, or our relationships struggle because of that, not being able to keep that balance. But before we jump into our juicy topic of really increasing your zest for life, I would love for you, Maggie, to share your story of how you were inspired to do this work with relationships and human sexuality, and kind of what led you to do this and help people in this area.
Oh, well, gosh, it's a long story, but at the same time, it just fascinates people, because the idea of being a sex therapist and the idea of being the first. And so people are often like, you're not following anybody. What made you be the first? And why would you want to go into that if there wasn't anybody doing that to begin with? And I say that I always wanted to. I always wanted to. If you ask my high school friends or girlfriends, and coffee and lunch, and we would always end up talking about relationships, just as we're talking about now. Yeah. And at the end, I would always say, I'd love to be a sex therapist, because with the nursing background, I had the medical knowledge. I had an ease of talking with people about during the maternity, and then I worked for a gynecologist, so talking about infertility. And so there was a natural ease talking about these things. Mm-hmm. And so that is more than, a quarter of the battle, because, you can go to your internist or your gynecologist, and people don't have the time. It's hard to open up to talk about these things.
Yeah, in a 20-minute window that you have time to talk to your gynecologist.
And you're good if it's 20 minutes. Yeah. If you're in Europe, if you're in the NHS and in the UK, you'll have a 10 minutes.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So it's very hard. And even then, the doctors have a hard time, really, because it's talking deep. Yep. These things are very sensitive and they're very complex. And so I found I had a gift to just talking with friends first. Mm-hmm. And then when I was getting to be closer to 50 and my children were growing up, and that's often the time when people start to reevaluate their careers. And so I was thinking, what do I want to do with the next part of my life? And I couldn't see myself running around working long shifts, either in hospital or following after doctors. So I really thought about what I wanted to do. And that takes a lot, just to really delve into your thoughts and your dreams. And so there I was at the time in the Bahamas with my children and my family. And so I researched, as one does, and good old Google, and found that there was a sex educator in West Palm Beach. Now, there's not many throughout the US at all. And so I wrote to her and I pursued it, and I was accepted on a 1-year post-grad course there, mm-hmm. which meant I had to travel once a month over there. So that was quite a commitment and quite a financial commitment, but that was the start of it. And then coming back, well, what do you do with this? It's really, how am I going to really make this happen? And so that's when somebody said to me, because you're the first, people don't know what it's all about. They don't know your thinking, your philosophies, anything about it at all. So they said, well, you better write an article, write a column in the paper, and you don't get paid for it. And so you can put your contact information at the bottom. Mm-hmm. And so I'd never written. So if anybody's ever written and they've been told that they have to write, that's quite a thing. But confidence has never been a problem for me. So I thought about some of the topics that people might be interested in. And I picked up the phone and I called the features editor at the local newspaper. I said who I was, I said my training, and I said, these are some of the topics that I'd like to write about. And lo and behold, she said, oh, great. Send it to me by Thursday and I'll print it on Tuesday. And I was like,
yes.
Yes. But
you probably didn't think it was that easy to have her
switch in a small place. It's the big fish in a small pond rather than, you do have these islands in the Bahamas, they're very entrepreneurish. And so you have access like that. And so there's such a bearing yourself. And this is where later on, when I was rebranded as the Bare Naked Coach, I talked about the vulnerability and about the exposure and people seeing me and reading me. And so they start to know you in a different way. And so we come on those issues where people feel as though they know you very well and get close to you. And so everybody liked it. It was well received in the community. And I would write relationshipy and then a little bit of sexuality at the end. And as it became more accepted, I was then able to write things like, why do men cheat? Why do women cheat? Does size really matter? A little play on words there. So I know.
Risque.
So we went from the tall to the small and played on that first before. So there was a little fun in all of that. But, and so I wrote for 2 years. And so it was during the first year that, of course, radio shows are always looking for guests. And so I was invited to many, many radio shows. And so people got to know me. And so my private practice grew, because this type of work is, people have to feel a connection. They have to feel that trust. They have to feel, I like the sound of her. I think I could sit down and talk with her. Yeah. And men needed to know that I was talking for them and about them, and as well as women. And that I was, so the connections had to be there. And so I think it was after about a year, and I was on a radio show, a morning show in the Bahamas on Island FM. And during the commercial break, the owner of the radio station came in and he just said to the host, he said, she's got to have her own show. And I said, well, I'm going to talk about anything. I said, if you're okay about that, I don't talk, I use medical terminology, but there's a blend that comes in there. And they said, no, that's fine. And that's how Love on the Rocks started. And of course we start on, and I was waiting for you to say Love on the Rocks, because that's what often people say. And, again, it's the play on words. And it just became very acceptable and great fun. And it led on to where people said, you could take this internationally. And so that's how it just took off from there.
How exciting. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, I think often you use the word vulnerability. I think many times we're not willing to be vulnerable, or we've had, past relationships that did not work out well. So we tend to close ourselves off, and we're closing ourselves off from, our true selves and who we are, our authentic selves. And we're often not wanting to put it all out there. And I think that's where, I think we're not attracting the right people, or we're not attracting anybody into our world. What can you share on that?
Oh, well, I mean, I can totally relate with that, because, and I know a lot of the Passionistas that are listening now will be able to relate when I say that as I grew, and you can't help personal growth, I believe. You can't stunt that. And as I was growing and becoming so recognizable in the Bahamas, I thought my husband was keeping up with me. And so that's very interesting because there's a kind of perception that, you know, women are very good at keeping up with their ambitious partners. And so perhaps, and through my experience, I found that it's not always reciprocated for women. And so lo and behold, all the things he was listening to anyway, he wasn't able to keep up. And so that was crushing. That was devastating to me, as the marriage was really tested. And so it became a mockery of my work too, his actions. And so there's a whole testing thing there. Something that you built that was my baby and growing, and this person has devastated. But, you know, it's how at the time I looked at it, well, you know, if you can't keep up with me now, then really we need to part ways. And, you know, I believe that where I've come and where I'm going is I'm stronger and richer for it. Mm-hmm. And we've got to know that. And as I said, I can't stop this. This is within me. This is who I am. This is the real me. So I am, and that's why I help people, guide them through ends of relationships and divorces. And does it destroy us? Yeah, we have to really rebuild. But my success, and where I tell my clients and anybody I can help, is your victory is rising higher than where you left. And so that's where I feel is I am richer and deeper, and my experiences are so much greater than at that point.
Yeah.
So I pass it on as an encouragement to show people that if I have come through it, not only a destruction of the relationship, but a destruction of my business and my reputation and all the things that I built, and yet I was able to pick up the pieces and reconstruct them. Sometimes we have to remold, and we have to create in a different way. And we have to be open to the fact of creating something different, but even better.
Yeah. So what I got from that is you weren't willing to dim your light and play a small game just to pacify your husband. And I think so many times we do that. We're either in a career that's not really allowing us to use our gifts in the most impactful way, or we're in relationships where we can't fully shine our light because we're afraid that our spouse might feel inferior, or we're not going to have enough time for our family. Women are definitely guilty of feeling guilty for, really doing something for themselves and really playing full out. So, so today we're going to be talking about the zest for life. I love that. And, I could imagine, I know I have an idea of what the word zest means, and I could imagine the listeners do as well. But what is your definition of zest?
Well, people often use spice, spice up your life and all that. And mine is zest. Because when I think about zest, it's not only is the zest on that citrus, it's when you cut, it's with the tang. It's that wakens you up. It's, when you think about sucking on a lemon, and it's your eyes open, it wakens you up, it makes you alert, it straightens your back, and your posture just changes altogether. And so that's what I talk about, the zest. And in my book, Truthfully Naked, stripped down to create extraordinary relationships, it's all about knowing. And this is about knowing yourself. The relationships, in all the relationships across the board in our lives, whether it's work and family, friend, whoever we touch, it's all about relationships. So we have to know ourselves, I believe, to be able to survive, to channel our way through all of this, because it can get really murky and busy, and we can get distracted. And so picking ourselves up from disappointments is so important to know. What do we need? What's the thing that picks you up? What do you need to give you that zest, to make your straight back and make your eyes pop again and to waken you up? And it's so important that at different stages of our lives, we need different things. And so I always ask people, revisit that. It may not be the same things that you needed even 5 years ago that you need now. Mm-hmm. Because we're growing, we're maturing, we're evolving all the time. As entrepreneurial women, that changes, and so it's important to know that and pay attention to the things that bring you joy. So that you know where to tap in, to pour some of that zest bottle. And I say bottle it, keep it there, whether it means that it's an empty bottle, you put those things in, little Post-its or whatever it is, that you know where to tap in.
So you're saying if you're starting to feel maybe down or overwhelmed or disappointed or any of those things, because as an entrepreneur, we're constantly hitting roadblocks or challenges, right? So you're saying create a zest bottle with things that really energize you and excite you, and you can really get back into the right frame of mind.
Exactly. Because it's so easy, the routines in life are passion killers. They just dampen everything. Yes, they dampen everything. Yeah. So whether it's your business or, your intimate relationship, whatever, I feel it's so important, because that is what produces the passion and the drive. And as entrepreneurs, and I'm sure you've had many discussions as I have, when we're in a group of people who aren't entrepreneurs, we're like the weird ones. We're like,
yes.
they
don't get us at all.
We have a different energy level. Yeah. And entrepreneurs understand entrepreneurs, and so we talk the same language. And so it's so important to know, again, what brings you joy, what lifts you up, what gives you that energy, that enthusiasm, whatever it is that you feel, or people who know you, or that when you're in that type of company, recognize something in you. And so if they say, oh, you're so passionate, you've got so much energy, you've got so much drive, I love that you can connect with people, I love your warmth or whatever. And so you have to think about, well, why? How did I get to that? What did I do to get to be this type of person? Or what made me today get to this point that they're feeling that? Because that's what's going to be transmitted to your customers or your clients or your audience if you're speaking. It's nobody wants to go and see somebody who doesn't believe what they're doing, who doesn't believe what their product is. If you can't convey that this is the real you and that you really believe in this, then they're not going to buy into that. So it's so important that we live an authentic life, because there's enough fakeness out there. There's enough people that lie, and surely you want to be, and I hope that between your work and my work and all the people that are in this group, we all feel the same way, that being honest and real and authentic is everything.
Yeah, I unfortunately don't think that's the case for a lot. I think, unfortunately, there's a lot of women that don't trust that what they have is good enough. And so they almost kind of want to emulate someone else who maybe has a level of success that they're working towards,
Yeah.
and they don't trust that, you know, if they really just understand what their unique value is and what they have to offer and tap into that and own that and represent that, then they're going to be, you know, the most joyful and really be able to make a bigger impact, and they're going to attract the right people to them, right? And so those of you who are afraid to really step out there and be authentic and feeling like maybe your authentic self is not good enough, I want you to think twice about that, because God made you very special and unique, and you have amazing gifts to share. And when you're willing to celebrate that and put that out there into the world, then that's what people are going to be really gravitating to, like Maggie was saying, and they're going to feel like they can trust you and want to connect with you and all of those things. Is that will not happen if you are not being your authentic self. You're going to struggle. And people, you may say all the right things or even, you know, do the actions, but energetically they're going to know that something's off here, right? And they're not going to be attracted to you, right?
Yeah, exactly. And this is why sometimes as entrepreneurs, we need, you know, the expression, to have somebody to guide and teach us and coach us that are a few steps ahead of us. And sometimes we have to reevaluate, why is it that we're feeling like this? You know, why don't we have the confidence? Why isn't it working? And sometimes you have to work through these things. And this is where my relationship and intimacy work comes in, is because sometimes it is to do with what's going on in your intimate relationship is having a ripple effect on the rest of your life and your business. And so this is where it's so important to try and focus on what's important for you and where you want to go, and look at the distractions. Are these things, are these people distracting you from where you want to go? So it all comes with the internal work that has to go on with all of us all the time. We're not perfect. This isn't a perfect world. And and that's it. Sometimes it's our expectations on ourselves and the pressure that we put on ourselves to be, like you said, comparing ourselves.
So you talk about creating relationship housework. Can you talk a little bit about, you share that in your book. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, what that means, and then maybe some things that we can maybe work on that will benefit from, you know, a little attention, or like you say, a little shine?
Yes. Well, it's just as I'm saying, sometimes we think it is our business and the things that aren't working, and then we have to look at what's going on in the rest of our lives. And so the relationship homework, housework, as I call it, is sometimes, and I know a lot of women can relate with this, is that we may be undervalued, we may be at home, treated like a bit of furniture, you know, walked around, ignored, not seen, not heard, not recognized, somebody not really knowing us, which is the most common. Men and women across the board is feeling that we're not known, you know. And so it's, and in my book, it's really, you know, at the end of each chapter, there's exercises where some of those come from. And the exercises are called, How Can I Love You Better? Which I always say, you know, we have shortcuts and energy saving on so many things and products and, you know, your fridge and your stove and all that sort of thing. And we need that energy saving for our relationships. Let's just cut by, you know, love languages, oh, it's this and this and this. Just tell me, how can I love you better? And so this is where the shine comes in. You know, some things, and as we know, need a little polish sometimes. You know, the zest has gone out of the relationship. You don't feel that a little pep in the step as you walk along. And that's why, you know, anybody else, if we don't flirt with our partner, then somebody else can flirt with you, and before you know it, you've got a
Like,
little
oh,
pep
I'm getting attention.
because yes.
Yeah.
And so it's that's why flirting is so important to either start once again or, you know, step it up, change it up, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the shine. You know, once we start polishing what we have, when you've got the silver and the crown jewels, you know, you got to keep them polished, because if they're a bit tarnished, then everything starts to look dull and boring. So, so those are some of the exercises that, and of course, you know, we talk through it with clients, and it's amazing how sometimes it can be the smallest thing to make a huge difference.
Yeah, a little love note or
Yes,
compliment, yes. Or
exactly. You know, there can be so many things because each relationship is unique. And, you know, this isn't, and my work is never about, you know, handing out exactly the same things for everybody, yeah, because each couple is unique. But that's what I was saying, is that sometimes the energy, if we're feeling flat in our business and our drive and our belief that anything is possible, perhaps it's been dampened and got dull and a little bit tarnished because in our, you know, in our personal life and our intimate relationships.
Or vice versa, right?
Yeah, exactly.
If you're feeling like you're not getting the results you want in your business, and you're, you know, maybe frustrated or overwhelmed, we can often bring that into
exactly
our home life.
Because the same things that we can do, you know, there are so many people who have like, oh, they're just career people, and, you know, their relationships are great in the business world. Mm-hmm. And then you hear people say, oh, but you can't have it in all, and it gives way in other ways. It doesn't necessarily have to be like that at all. Again, there's a belief that goes in there that, you know, and so it's learning the art of how to maintain and sustain and really uplift your relationships across the board, yeah, in your life.
I think, you know, getting clear on what your priorities are and putting attention on those, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So can you share a little bit about creating a wish list, what that might look like?
Well, again, it's the dreaming. You know, I'm a great believer in visualizing. Mm-hmm. And when I visualized and I make it happen, and because that's where the creating is, you know, whether you visualize in your dreams as you're going to sleep, or you visualize in a wish list, it can be, again, we're talking to entrepreneurs, whether you want to talk about in a business way, it is important to plan. You know, in planning then allows you then to step into the being creative. Because if you're going to leave things to be haphazard, you'll have haphazard results too.
Yeah.
So it's important that dream, you know, whether it is your vision boards, or whether you're a listing person, or whether it's a bucket, whatever you want to title it, you know, you can title it whatever you want to do. One of my things was to buy myself a sports car, you know, an open top. And
I just got one a couple of weeks ago. That's funny.
And I'm living just now on this little tiny island, as I said, close to France. Yep. Which is the perfect little place. Just, it's not too hot, not too cold, and so you can put the roof down or whatever. Mm-hmm. But for those moments of joy that brings me, it is worth everything. And whether I sell it soon or whatever, but my memory and the joy of what I felt, you know, it's capturing that. Yeah. Now, I wasn't able to do that 10 years ago, but I am now. And so who's to say? You know, people are so quick to squash, like you said, turn down our light, or, you know, they just think, oh, she's got a vivid imagination, or, you know, she's, you know, she's just, it's just not possible, you know. Yeah. Who are they to say? You know, their dreams are their dreams, your dreams are your dreams. So
why not?
Yes,
why not?
exactly. exactly. Yeah. So it's so important not to have any of the, like I said, either regrets or the what ifs. Don't live with the what ifs. So it's important to plan and create. Yeah.
Well, when you said that, Maggie, because I share one of those things, what if can be definitely a sabotager, because we think of what if, I try this and I fail, blah, blah, blah. There's also the what if I do this and I have amazing results, or my life gets changed, or I meet the man of my dreams, or whatever it is, right? So it's just how you choose to look at it from either a negative or a positive perspective.
Yeah. Because I call it the slippery slope. It's so easy to go down that gloom and doom and despair.
Yeah.
It's too easy. And where that takes you, and we spend a lot of time wasting time on that. So I have learned how to retrain my thoughts. And we hear about that all the time.
Yes.
And it is a practiced art. I mean, I've visited hell quite a few times these last 10 years. So I don't want to go down there again. So it's like, how am I going to make sure to catch my thoughts? And it's catching your thoughts. And this is where surrounding yourself with people who believe in you, can see it in you, can uplift you. And there's a lot of very successful entrepreneurs that do not, and they really say out loud on the stage that any negativity, don't bring around me.
Yep.
Just don't bring it around me. And so, then you're able to focus. Then you're able to focus on what you want and purpose. That's what I feel. I feel I have a message, and I feel this is my work, and I can't control it. It is who I am. And so I'm able to, and I've been able to, but it's taken a long time. I thought I had clarity 10 years ago. And life and everything happened, whatever. And so I've learned how to really fine tune that focus.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, we're having to constantly pivot or shift or change. What might be clarity in the moment, and then something else happens, and then you gotta, change it up and gain clarity in that situation.
Well, all the people say it all the time. There's no real path. Does it really take you to, is it wrong? If you believe it's wrong, you're going to pull yourself down there. I would rather believe, and my belief is that I'm here for a reason, and this is the beauty of online businesses. Look at this. I can be in, Europe on my time zone, and you're in your, and so the world becomes smaller, I believe, for an entrepreneur. And things are changing for women, definitely.
We're constantly learning and growing, for sure. So what may seem like, something that maybe didn't work out, there was a reason for that. And we're just going to be stronger and more confident because of it, right?
Yeah.
So you talk about setting some goals. Can you talk about, if somebody really wants to live in that place of a zestful life, and they want to generate more enthusiasm and energy in their world, what are some goals that we can set for ourselves to really ensure that that's a focus and priority in our life?
Well, again, anybody who's done business coaching and things, they always talk about bite-sized goals and, quarterly goals. And there's a lot of sense in all of that. Now, if we're talking about businesses and business goals, we've got to be successful, as we've got to reevaluate, like they say, the numbers count and all of that, what you put in. We've got to be time efficient, and we've got to, otherwise we burn ourselves out. You can't be taking everything and running with it all the time. So you've got to reevaluate. Oh, now what do I do? Do I do this? Do I cut this out? Do I run this for a while and see how it goes and see if there's a bite? And so That's really important. Otherwise, so we've got to be practical. And so that's where the planning comes in, isn't it? It's planning and creating. But, you know, and again, business coaches have a lot of sense that when they say you've got to work on your business a little bit every day just to keep it, the momentum. And so it's that little bit, you can't, it's important to do something. And so you want, but at the same time, you want it to be fruitful. You want it to make sense to you. There isn't the sense that, and I know a lot of us are like, you know, we speed up, we slow down, we feel that sometimes we're more creative some years than others. And so you've got to be flexible and kind to yourself during these times. Yeah. Because like you said, if you haven't got the confidence and you don't feel that your self-worth is there, you can be so disappointed and dejected when something doesn't work out. And so, and we've all been down like that. And so that's when the Zest bottle is so important, you know? It's knowing, okay, we'll take a couple of days breather and we'll just do something that is fun and then will make me feel good and will build me up again. And then we start off again.
Yeah, it's like trying to drive your car with an empty tank of gas. You're not going to go anywhere. So you might as well just stop what you're doing. Yeah. And do something that's going to fill your tank back up, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Give you energy again.
Yes.
Give you the fuel to keep moving forward. So, but yeah, I think some of us beat ourselves up if we're not, you know, actively doing something in our business, then that's bad. But if it's all about the energy, right? If you're depleted and you're attempting to go out there and build your business, you're operating from that negative space, so you're not going to be productive anyway. So you might as well just take that break.
And then it might be that something is about with your intimate life. And so that's why, you know, it's amazing how that can be rippled and we can feel it and other people can feel it in the rest of our lives. And that may be translated into your business as well. So that's why
I've actually, you know, seen how, you know, having an unhealthy love life can really then cause people to second guess their ability to be a successful business owner, even though they've proven otherwise.
Well, because if you've got that person taking you down or trying to dim your light or squashing something, it will eat away, it will gnaw away at your confidence. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing, like you say, they know they are and they've been successful and yet, and so we have to let these things go, you know, whether it's, and again, the wording that you use, I like to use the word stepping aside. You know, sometimes you have to step aside from relationships, that friendships or family or whatever. And, you know, I love the expression, you know, just because you lose me as a friend doesn't mean that you gain me as an enemy, you know? Mm-hmm. And, you know, I want you to eat, but just not at my table. I mean, we don't have to be pleasing everybody. Yeah. You know, it's, and this is where it's so important to do the work on what is your purpose, mm-hmm. you know, and a purposeful business, I believe, where we serve people, for me, I think is the most rewarding and the most fruitful, and it's just easier, I think, because it is. But these things, you know, so we've got to look at, those healthy relationships or unhealthy ones. Mm-hmm. And anybody who's pulling you down, you've got to think, you know, what is all that about? What is that about? Is that really a reflection about them rather than about you?
Yes.
Mm.
So true.
Yeah.
Well said. All right. Well, unfortunately, we're running out of time here. And I know that you have an amazing offer that you wanted to share for our Passionistas today. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. Well, I would like to offer them, I do a 15-minute free phone call, and whatever you want to talk about, whether because of listening here, whether it is something business related or whether it's something personal, relationship-wise, or whether it is about intimacy issues, feel free. And then, of course, especially for the Passionistas, 10% off any of my sessions, which you'll see on my website, which is barenakedcoach.com. So I would just encourage anybody to, from this group, email me at maggie@barenakedcoach.com if you don't remember.
We have the information in the comments.
So just email me, and on the subject line, just put Passionista, and then I'll know it's you, and we'll make adjustments to the theme. So yes.
Awesome. Well, certainly encourage all of you that are feeling connected here to Maggie and resonating with some of the things she's saying and feeling like, wow, I can really use her help or support, that you take advantage of that. Here at Passionista Nation, we're here to support you and allow you to be the best that you can be. Absolutely. I mean, this community is all about living your passion and purpose, but if you're feeling that something is holding you back from truly doing that, it's nice to say, oh yeah, we're Passionistas, we're living our passion and purpose, but in reality, there are times or situations or things that happen that will cause us to retreat a little bit from that, or not be ourselves, or not, as Maggie said, be as confident as we can be. So it's really up to you to take a look at that and do the work to get back where you need to be, so you can really be out there and enjoy life and have that zest for life, and also the zest for your business, and be of service to others, and really play full out and help the people that you're meant to help. So thank you, Maggie, so much for your words of wisdom and the incredible knowledge and insight and wisdom that you shared today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh,
Thank
of course.
You. A lot of fun. Thank you.
And if y'all wouldn't mind, my Texas is coming out. We would love to hear from you, your favorite takeaway from today's interview. And if you had any questions that you wanted to ask Maggie, you can do that just by commenting. And she said that she graciously said that she would go in and answer your questions as well. So awesome. Well, thank you again, Maggie. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I had fun. I hope you had fun and learned a lot along the way. And we look forward to seeing you during the next Passionista Nation Expert Interview Series. But until then, be courageous, take inspired action, and go out there and share your gifts with the world. Bye, everybody.